Next in.
We're here.
Finally.
Hello, world. I'm Taylor Duncan. This is Shane Chown. We are Next In. This is episode 1, Next In Recruiting. Shane and I run Next Level Recruiting out of Nashville, and we are launching our podcast to give a review in business, tech, recruiting, and everything else under the sun. We are both pretty opinionated.
Sometimes to talk randomly about bacon, sometimes to talk randomly about tech startups. Kind of just depends on our mood for the day.
Absolutely. So that's really what this show is going to be about. A little bit of everything, all kind of are going to find their way back to technology and recruiting, which is what we know best. So how you doing, Shane?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Today I kind of wanted to start with something light, maybe not necessarily just straight business, but we're getting ready to go into Memorial Day weekend. And we've had a lot of conversations around, are you working? Are you not working? We work with a number of technology companies and gaming studios, and there are some particular gaming studios entering crunch this weekend where they're pushing out 12-hour days for the next 2 weeks to ship a game, right? And I'm kind of curious. I wanted to start off this conversation with what is the difference between having good work-life balance and enjoying yourself during a holiday weekend versus grinding it out, right?
Ooh, that's a good topic. We'll start. Shane, what are you doing this weekend? Personal.
My ideal situation is going on a boat and having some drinks and floating around. Nashville is normally extremely beautiful and awesome, but we are having a lot of rain happening today. And, for a long time, I thought before moving to Nashville that when it rains, it storms was just like a country song. Now I'm realizing that it's more like a biblical verse that happens in real life. And sometimes you can't even make it to work and you got to pull over. But yeah, I thought I was going on a boat. It's a maybe. It's supposed to actually be cold for the first time in 2 weeks. That's obnoxious, but
yeah.
Ideally, it's on a boat, drinking, having a good time.
That sounds very Memorial Day.
Strangers.
That sounds very Memorial Day. I am, because 5 kids, boys who play baseball, I am at a baseball tournament. So pretty much every spring and summer weekend. But this one will be fun. This is a big one down in Franklin, and I only have 1 kid in it. So get to enjoy some family time, watching some baseball. And actually, from my perspective, since I'm not on a boat, weather's going to be perfect. 75 degrees. It'll be a nice weekend. Last weekend was 90. It's a little bit hot. So
Don't have to drive down to Mississippi for this one. That's always a
nope.
bonus.
Nope. So what to do about the work-life balance? Obviously, well, first off, Memorial Day is a day to memorialize the veterans in America. So if anyone is watching and happens to be a military vet, thank you for your service. And so certainly I think with a lot of these different holidays, it's a matter of each person's individual situation. I think I've always found it, if I'm going to speak openly, a little bit dangerous to say, here's exactly what you have to do and not do. And instead kind of left it to the person. If it's a really important day for them, I understand. If it's something where they want to utilize the time and opportunity to get ahead, I also understand that. So, I try very hard to make it individualized and what someone is able to do and wants to do for themselves in their situation. That's just how I've been for the last 20 years in business. Goes to just about every holiday. I'm not going to tell someone on Rosh Hashanah they have to have the day off or that they have to work. It's really, everyone handles that a little bit differently. So that's me. I know some of these gaming studios that we hear about are not exactly giving that option, and that's causing some frustration from some of the developers on up.
I mean, I work on holidays sometimes just because I think it has a lot of areas of opportunity. But at the same time, yeah, I think that there's a conversation between what you do and do not give off as an employee benefit, and to be able to increase attrition or decrease attrition, whatever you're going to do, right?
Yeah. So hopefully this Memorial Day, you're going to get a chance to do a little bit of both. get some work done, but also get to have some fun. Maybe it's going on a boat, maybe it's a baseball tournament. But hopefully, whoever you work for, your employer, whatever company you run, is at least thought through making sure there's a balance between both options instead of just saying you're automatically off or you're automatically working. What makes the most sense for you and your situation?
Yeah,
So,
because part of that too, right, gets into one of the topics I really wanted to talk about, which was like employee burnout during, what is now COVID, right? With people working from home versus being in the office. Do you think that people are going to continue being remote forever and always? Do you think that people are going to, want to get back into the office? Do you think that there's going to be this hybrid of both? I guess, as companies are moving forward, I know that, here in Nashville, things are like the mask mandate's gone. People are starting to go out. You see Broadway and people are getting sloppy on top of rooftops right now. But do you imagine that, work life is going to change forever because of COVID? Do we think that we're going back into the office? Do we think that we're going to be remote? Like, what do you think, Taylor?
well, this is going to be a big discussion probably for the next 6 months, would be my guess, maybe a year. I'll bet you we talk about it about 20 different times. I can give you my perspective from the companies we've worked with and the people we've recruited. For those out there who are like interested as to like what the rest of the world is doing, it really has been very much 50-50. People are uncertain. Some employees are like, I will only do remote. Other employees are like, I can't do remote any longer. And if I'm on a web chat with them, they're like, look at this. I have kids. Today I did a web chat and someone's dog popped up on them. I mean, that kind of stuff. I think people are done with it. I know myself personally, I'm done with it. But from a personal standpoint, I think it's going to be this balancing act of how do you keep the culture that was really what I think separated a lot of great businesses. And you saw it maybe 10, 15 years ago with the tech boom, and everyone knows this, right? Google and all their campuses, they had, slides and they had ping pong tables, and it was, hey, look at how fun it is to go work for Google. Well, now it's everything's remote. Well, now that whole culture that was trying to be built to make it the fun place to go and enjoy the people you're working with, or in our world of recruiting and sales, it's the competitive environment where you're working with someone else and you're trying to beat them and everything else. I don't think you can replace that remotely. I don't think you can build relationships remotely the same way. At the same time, we found technology where for us, even though we were back in office, when it snowed in Nashville and everything was shut down, we didn't skip a beat because everyone could work remotely that week. So there's a balancing act of like, it is more efficient, but it's less effective. So you want to balance efficiency with effectiveness. And that's where I think a lot of companies are going to start to see get into some level of hybrid, like you and I have talked about, of going, maybe it's 4 days in office, 1 day out, where it's enough in office where you get the culture, but there's still a little bit of ability to be like, hey, I'm going to work remote for a day this week. It's going to make more sense. It breaks up the week a little bit and actually can be more efficient and more effective. I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, because I think that, as I think about it, I think there's a lot of different factions of people that, have strong opinions, softer opinions. And, I've definitely noticed this trend of like the younger population, maybe people that are single, don't have children. It does feel like they're a lot more likely to want, being remote more often. Like they want to be able to have a job where they can go and work in Miami or Austin or on a beach somewhere and sip pina coladas while they happen to work. And, I've talked to a lot of people that happen to be, early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, early 30s, where like that is the lifestyle that they want. They want to be able to travel more. They want to be able to experience more, and they want to be a lot more mobile. And having a remote job is allowing for that. However, then there's this conversation of folks that aren't able to travel as often and aren't able to get out more often, and they have families. And everybody that I know that has, anywhere from 2 to, 10, 12 children. I have 6 brothers, 3 sisters, myself. Those individuals hate being remote, and they seem like they want to be in the office and they want to get away and they want to be able to disconnect their, office life and their home life. I mean, I don't have children. I have a puppy, right? Like I have a dog and that's about it. But like Taylor, you have, a bazillion children. Like, how do you feel about your ability to be able to disconnect from work and home when you have a large family?
Uh, for years, this was before the COVID. I tried very hard not to work at home because I didn't want my kids to see that part of my life. Not that I didn't want them to see me work, but I never wanted my kids to be like, "Oh, my dad was always working," when I really wasn't. But they just saw me work a lot. So when I came home, I tried to kind of turn it off, or I'd go in a separate room and make a phone call or take a call. Um, Now, there is a lot of benefit to this idea. Like, my wife now works at a school, and there have been times where I've had to work from home because, well, my kids happen to have a half day when she didn't, or whatever. So I was able to be there. So again, some level of efficiency was great, but I could not do it all the time. I think it would be, I don't know. I personally, and again, maybe this is just my old school mentality, is I just think there should be a good separation for you to have time with your family versus if my office is at where I live, I'm always kind of working. And I do think long term it's going to lead to burnout. I think to be able to remove yourself, go to work, get your stuff done, and then go home. On top of it, let's be real. Everyone who's listening who has worked remote, which is everyone at least to some extent, you are not as effective at home. If you have 15 minutes in between a meeting, you're not crunching out some emails and stuff like that. You're getting up and you're going to the fridge, right? I mean, there's a reason why people got fatter during COVID. And I think one of it is you're around your refrigerator way too much, and obviously gyms being closed too, but you're around your fridge or you're just hanging out and you just sit around all the time. And I think that's dangerous. You're just less able to do some of those gap times with effective work. Whereas now, if I'm at the office and I got 15 minutes of free time, I'm going to follow up on emails or whatever. Whereas if I'm at home and I have 15 minutes of free time, it's very easy to get distracted.
I
So,
mean, I would put the counterpoint, like, I think that there's a little bit of social pressure when you're in the office. I think there's a little bit of social pressure that you feel like somebody might be watching over you. And I think that maybe you don't have the same freedom. So even if it's not, going to the fridge more often, I think that everybody has like those little things that maybe they do. Like, I've caught myself when I'm, working from home alone, going out and wanting to play with Riku for a little bit or go take him for an extra walk or something, which, to an extent that kind of made, when I was doing that more and more, it like made me feel better. I know that my dog felt spoiled in the last couple of weeks. I've kind of reduced the amount of times that I take him for walks, and now he'll, take a poo in the hallway because he's just like mad at me for not walking him as often as I used to. And there's a little bit of frustration there. And I'm sure, when we get back into the office, pets are going to be fairly frustrated. And I know Riku's going to be mad when that happens. But the other part of it is like I've had a bunch of clients lately, and this has been a really hot topic, this concept of like, should we hire more remote? Should we be in the office more? And they say like, hey, Shane, like, what are your other clients experiencing? Is it positive? Is it negative? Like, do you really see that there's going to be this upward trend? Are we going to really miss out? And it's been kind of a catch-22 conversation, in my opinion. And I'll kind of like share what I've seen, and then you can tell me what you think. But some of the things that I've seen with some of our clients is like, yes, hiring people remote has been easier. There's been a lower barrier to entry. There's been, a wider pool of applicants that are available, and these have been like massive benefits. But I know that recently Microsoft came out with a study where it's like 38% of your staff is likely going to be leaving over the course of the next 12 months. And then beyond that, as companies are shifting to more and more being remote, the studies show that they anticipate an increase in attrition over time because employees are going to be disconnected with coworkers, with their employer, and they believe that it'll be more transactional in nature. Like, people might be happy with their job, but it will become a more transactional dynamic rather than a social dynamic, and people believe that attrition will increase. But some companies are okay with this increase of attrition because they could onboard people faster and find new people faster. And that seems to be this big shift, which is, what are we willing to sacrifice? Where do we really want to invest? do we want to invest in opportunity to give our employees a higher work-life balance by working from home, but understand that there's going to be higher attrition, but we can hire more? I mean, this ends up turning into like a really big conversation with a lot of different people, and some of our clients that have been 100% remote for the last 5 years. I mean, that's one of the big things that they talk about is like they understand that their attrition has been higher since they've gone 100% remote. However, they can onboard faster and it's less expensive to find new employees.
Yeah, I mean, let's get real. You and I have talked to hundreds of people who currently are remote for remote companies and who are all remote, and they have no problem taking our call in the middle of their workday and discussing new job opportunities. A lot of them don't want to relocate or whatever, but they're not opposed to going into office. They're not opposed to staying remote, but there certainly doesn't feel this like connection to the company that they work for. It is the project they're working on. That's it. When it's done, I'm ready to move on. There just isn't this like family
your environment.
feel.
Your environment doesn't change, right? Like from day one to day two, like the difference is there's your paycheck. Are you using Google Meets? Are you using Zoom? Are you using Teams? Like those are the things that are starting to change in a 100% remote workforce, unless something you've done has created a community. And I think that it becomes like a super interesting topic in the future. Maybe we don't talk about that today, but like, if you did shift the paradigm of your business and you went into remote, like what are the things that you're doing to keep your employees engaged? Because I feel like that's a tough conversation. And I think, I'm being asked that all the time by clients where it's just like, what are your other clients doing? Because there are these companies that have been remote for a long time and they're still trying to figure this out. It's like, what do we do to keep people engaged? What do your clients do? And I almost feel like that can be a whole business idea. It's like a company coming up with just like how to do remote engagement, how to do remote
culture,
remote culture, like something.
How to build remote culture. Feel like we're like totally entering the age of like robots and like Jetsons all of a sudden.
Yeah, and if there is like some sort of like application anybody listening knows of, like comment, please tell me. I'm desperate. I would love to know.
We do know. Right? We do know because we've actually gone job hunting for some of these companies that do VR meetings, right? And the whole point is it's not a Zoom meeting. It feels like you're in the same room. I don't think the technology is there yet to where it truly feels like you're in the same room, but that's what they're approaching. They're pushing towards this idea that, we talked about VR concerts and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's a thing, but they're trying.
Yeah. But like even like the VR stuff, like it's not readily available, right? Like I'm not, Google's not getting ready to launch out, 100,000 VR headsets for everybody to like all of a sudden be like, yes, let's all get into this. And like, it's not at like a mass population of just getting it ready to go, right? Like that's not happening.
No,
that's not like a short-term thing. Like, 10 years from now, maybe at that point, Google X comes out with their VR lenses, and I just pop in a lens, and there's, and everything's right there.
I'm sorry for anyone who, like, if you haven't seen Black Mirror, I'm gonna keep talking about it. It's the best show. It's terrifying, but yes, you're gonna pop in a contact lens, and you're gonna be able to like enter a new world. It's crazy. So, I think this will be an ongoing discussion. I think this will be something that maybe every week we talk about, every month we talk about, is this remote versus in-person versus hybrid. How do you balance it? How do you create culture if you're going to be remote? What if you can't be remote? What do you think the benefits of being, in person or on-prem versus in the cloud, right? So it's like, I guess those are the balancing act. And I think you're going to see pendulum swings back and forth, like hardcore to we're going to go very, very remote to you're going to see a lot of people who just, absolutely not. And we have clients who are like, nope, you're in office. Personal feeling, my belief is that the in office is going to win. It's pretty hard to believe that the hundreds of years that we've worked together as people and as a species, all of a sudden we're just going to throw that out for computer work and virtual work. I think there's going to be a balance, but I think in person is going to eventually come back to close to what we've experienced.
Well, I we have one client and they're a gaming studio. And one of the things that they've done, right? which I think can be very controversial, and I'd love anybody's opinions. Comment below. But like one of the clients, what they do is like every single employee, they share this during the interview process. Is everyone's 100% remote? It is what it is, but they set up a webcam in everybody's kind of like personal in-home office. And then they require that you set up an online stream where throughout the day and all day you have this online stream of your personal office where everybody is like in the office together, where you've got a screen that kind of shows everybody on the team. And you can mute yourself if you want to, but it also allows for everybody to like click and then they could speak to the group and somebody can answer. So like if you got to tap somebody on the shoulder, you can just unmute yourself and talk to the group, or everybody can hang out and talk together. But they live stream all day on their core hours from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. And it's a company-wide requirement, and it's something that they create buy-in in during the interview process to make sure, even though you're remote, we feel like we're together. I'm curious on.
The funny thing
that
is,
kind of feels like Big Brother. I kind of like it. I kind of hate it.
Part of me, I went through while you were talking, during that 45 seconds, I went through, that's horrible. Wait, that's actually really cool. Wait, that's the worst idea. Hang on to like, nope, that's terrifying, because even when we work together, I'm not able to just pop a camera and just watch everyone work for 2 hours straight and be like, nope, don't touch that button. Nope, don't do that. Like, that is very Big Brother.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like sometimes I give myself an itch in the nose, or I'm chewing on a pen, and it'd be embarrassing for people to see my weird habits that happen as I'm doing daily activities,
and could be recorded. So, yeah, I think that's gonna be a topic we're gonna come back to. Let's move. And just for everyone, I wanted to talk a little bit about funding. I think that's something that we get pretty involved in. I've done a lot of investing in companies from an angel side of things. We obviously work with very heavily funded Series A, Series B, Series D companies, seed funding companies. So I think it'd be fun for us to just talk about a few of the most recent big splashes. Had a friend of mine shoot over an article about Perch. I don't know if anyone's aware of Perch. Perch did a small amount of funding, only not even $1 billion. I mean, nothing big, no big deal. Just $775 million Series A funding.
Which is outrageous when you see that they only have, like, I go on LinkedIn and I looked up like 12 different Perches because I just didn't believe it. Like I went through multiple Perches all over the place, and I was just like, it can't be the 63 person company. Like it can't be 63 people with $700+ million in funding. And you go onto their website and it feels small time.
Now, just to be clear what they are and where a lot of the funding is going to go into is to just acquire other companies. That's really what they're doing. They're acquiring retailers, more or less. So Amazon retail, retailers that are have found a lot of success through Amazon, and that's what they're doing. They're just acquiring a ton of companies, small businesses, with this money. It's just outrageous, though. $775 million. Basically, they're going to pretty quickly become, I guess, where's that going to go? So now all of a sudden you have hundreds of retailers that have been using Amazon to resell product, and now going to be purchased by one singular place, Perch. So now are they going to have enough power over Amazon to like push back against Amazon and just up and leave Amazon and now move over to Shopify? Is that the goal here? What do you think is the purpose that they're going to take this to?
I was trying to do some research, and I was thinking about like, well, what does it mean, right? Because like when you go through, even some of their technology roles that are open, it's like heavily focused on like e-commerce integration, large platforms, services, and then they're increasing their supply chain. So yeah, I mean, it looks like they want to be linchpins in like the e-commerce space. And does that mean like, hey, I want to be able to create my own tribe that can sway how Amazon sells? Maybe it's like, can I get enough of Amazon's daily users that are pushing product on their services to cut deals with Amazon or shift the tides over to Facebook or Microsoft or Shopify or whoever else, has some sort of online platform. I'm not positive. I'm curious what the big picture play is here. I'm not in the boardroom that gets to hear or talk about this thing, but it's interesting, and there has to be something crazy happening with $775 million worth of funding. It can't just be I want to help support the companies posting on Amazon. It's got to be a bigger play than that.
I would think so. I'm intrigued by it because to some extent there is frustration that comes from me going, every single thing seems to funnel back to Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook. Like everything funnels back to them. They control it all, and if they don't, they just go out and buy it. And all of a sudden you feel like every company in the world somehow finds their way back to those, what did I name, 4 companies? Maybe I missed one, right? But and I'd love to see someone be able to kind of compete against them and force them to no longer just be the giant that all of a sudden it's like, well, hey, I want to get in the grocery space. Boom, I'll take Whole Foods and I'll take Albertsons. Done. And then so if this is a play where Perch now all of a sudden can push back on Amazon and almost keep Amazon honest, I'm open to something like that. Kind of feels like this is going a little bit in the direction of the SPACs that are going on, which is raise a bunch of money to then just go buy a business, right? That's the hot new thing, or was 6 months ago, and still is. And so that's not exactly what this is, but it kind of feels similar. And all of a sudden you got this raise $775 million for no purpose of necessarily employees or developing technology, rather just go buy other companies. And I do think I would like to, that's a boardroom I would enjoy being a part of. What is the long-term play here for Perch? So anyone who's got any ideas on that, also comment below.
I guess my hope with Perch would be something like hey, we're building a platform of services that allows you to spin up running your analytics on something like Amazon and integrate with 5 or 6 other e-commerce websites, and you can host everything from a singular function. That would be my hope, but that doesn't look like that's what the play is.
We'll see. Keep your eyes peeled for Perch. They're making waves. All right, so I guess last but not least, Shane, tell us a little bit about how you got into recruiting, because we want to talk, you kind of tie in a little bit of the recruiting side of things, the tech side, the fun side, and the leadership side. That's all the different sides for us. So how'd you get into recruiting?
I honestly don't think I know very many people that grew up and was like, I'm dreaming of being a recruiter, right? I think as a kid, I thought I was going to be a professional basketball player, and I was like, yes. And then I stopped growing at 5'9", and I stayed at 5'9", and that was no longer a dream. That was a anatomy problem that I was not going to solve, even though I went to a Globetrotters game and I saw a 5'9" guy dunk a ball. Cool for you, but you were stuck in the Globetrotters and you were not playing in the NBA making actual money. So I had to change my dreams. I think my dreams, changed a bazillion times throughout school and going to college and, doing different types of internships. Matter of fact, me and Taylor originally met, it was like 12 years ago when I did an internship when I was going to University of Washington. And, ultimately I got into a number of places where, I loved sales. I was knocking on doors with Taylor. Taylor was my boss's boss at the time, but I was knocking on doors while he was cracking a whip, I guess, from afar, telling me to go knock on more doors. But I was selling paint jobs. I ended up getting to a place where I was recruiting university students at the University of Washington, UBC up in British Columbia, etc., teaching people how to start and run their own small painting business. And I think, one of the things that I found the most joy in was this combination of doing sales and recruiting people for my team and, kind of inspiring these university students to kind of take charge in their entrepreneurial ventures and whatnot. And I just got to the point where I needed to figure out what else I wanted to do once I left, College Works Painting at the time, and took a sabbatical, if you will. Went out to Hawaii, and it's my joke in the family that I was homeless in Hawaii, where I was staying in an Airbnb kind of soul searching, and I was bumming it on a beach and trying to intake jobs and interview for jobs and figure out what I wanted, and ultimately ended up watching gosh man, I think it was like Friends with Benefits or No Strings Attached, the one with Ashton Kutcher and Melina Kunis. And Melina Kunis, oh no, Justin Timberlake, sorry, it was Justin Timberlake and Melina Kunis, and she recruited him to New York to be a creative director. And I was like, somebody makes money convincing people to do that, I'm gonna go try to do that thing. And ultimately ended up joining a recruiting agency, and it was really my first taste into technical recruiting. And from there ended up running Talentful and helped run that for a bit. We ended up starting a startup, was like a machine learning and artificial intelligence platform that did identity resolution, which is like a really just fancy way of saying we found people real fast. And ultimately, ended up selling that off for a lot of reasons. But yeah, I mean, I got into recruiting by random happenstance. Movie I saw on TV while drinking pina coladas on the beach, and took a leap of faith, and haven't worked a day since. I'm just kidding.
Awesome.
I work every day. It's just I love what I do. So
that's awesome. Well, and I think from here on out, just so everyone knows a little bit more about the show, again, it's Shane and I. We run Next Level. I'm the COO. He's the CEO. Shane has an incredibly lengthy background in the tech industry on the recruiting side and staffing side. I have an incredible background of knowing Shane. And so we now work together in helping tech firms throughout the United States. We're based in Nashville, but we help them throughout the United States in their staffing of developers, product people, all the way up to executive search. And so we have a little bit of behind the curtain scene of what the industry looks like, not from one company's perspective, but from hundreds of companies' perspective of what they're looking for, challenges they're facing in staffing, in attrition and everything else. We hope to be able to bring that to you guys. And we'd love to be able to answer questions. We're going to have some guests on the show, and we're going to talk about technology. We're going to talk about having fun. We're going to talk about Nashville. I promise you we'll talk about Music City and get you guys all to move here. And we're going to talk about recruiting. So join us. We'll be on every week. We'll be starting to do these shows live. It's been a lot of fun from Shane and me in Nashville. Goodbye.
Yeah, and I guess one last thing. Follow us, like us, share the stuff, like the stuff, do all the stuff. Do all the stuff. So share some love, comment, share with your friends, whatever you need to do. Really appreciate you guys just taking the time to listen to us banter. I mean, we can be obnoxious sometimes. So hopefully we'll be more obnoxious in the future.
Next in